started. Thank you all for coming, and if you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would join me in a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening thanking you for this wonderful day. We thank you for warming it back up for us so we can get rid of all your lovely leaves. We pray that you be with us tonight as we go about the business of the township, and we ask that you would return us home safely. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Everybody have a chance to review the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Support.
We have a motion, we have a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? How about the approval of the minutes from the October 14th meeting? Ed, what was different about your new technology? Is it just more summarizing? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written. Any support? Support. We have a motion. We have a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I'm fine with it. I think it looks fine. I mean, key points. Yeah. I mean, I'm not too concerned about who said the key point as long as it's in there. So, would you guys agree? That's fair. Okay. All right. So we'll get into, well, brief public comment. Anything that you guys want to talk about that's not on the agenda? No? All right. We will get into the pending business, the preliminary site condominium approval for Bella Woods, Paramount Development. We've got a laundry list of things here, which most of it we've already reviewed. It should just be buttoning up stuff from the last meeting. So we'll go right down the list. The application of traffic study. The application hasn't changed at all, right?
If I could just clarify one thing. Rita pointed out something in the access management overlay, and I clarified with Ross. Ross is here in place of Brad. There's a section where it says, let me find it. See access points, and then describes driveways that serve as single-family dwelling and two-family dwelling are not a part of this. So that means technically separation would be met. So per Somerset Meadows, the access point is about a little over 1,000 feet. Cannon Town Square is a little over 1,000 feet. So that means there is 450 feet, 55 feet of separation from other access points.
So we're good.
So, yeah.
That's a good thing. All right. The application traffic study. The application hasn't changed. It's just the traffic study. It didn't need to change because it already met for the 68 lots, correct? Because at the time, I think you did it for 68, and we were only looking for 61 at the time, so it should be sufficient. The site plans, nothing's changed since the last time we looked at them last month, correct? All right. Anything in your memo that you want to review, or would you like to do that one last after we do the other items? I guess, Mr. Gritters, yours has some new information on it. Is there anything you would like to explain in yours? We've learned that you addressed the what do you call it, the delineation report or whatever, and it sounds like that shouldn't be an issue, correct?
I believe so, correct. So really the two things that I noted in my latest letter dated November 5 are the wetland delineation and the traffic study. So the wetland delineation, there was a clarification, basically a clarification letter from Bar Engineering, which is the firm that does the wetland delineation, and their conclusion was that 6 of the wetlands on site are not regulated. One of them is, the one being the one closest to Belding Road. One of the small tweaks of the site plan was that they moved the proposed stormwater basin out of that wetland that is regulated. So now they're not proposing any impact to the regulated wetland, and the other wetlands on site, Bar's conclusion is that they're not regulated, so they can use them.
It was just the ones in the front corner right here, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep. So I do agree with Bar's conclusion that it's best practice to have Eagle review their delineation and their conclusion. So I would still recommend that, yet prior to construction, make sure that if there is any permitting required by Eagle, that take place prior to construction. And then for the traffic study, I believe there's a minor discrepancy with one of the data points and the conclusion. At the end of the day, though, MDOT is going to be the one that reviews that and decides what has to be done there. So really at that point, or on that point, now I would leave that in MDOT's court to determine what is needed there by way of tapers or clear vision corners or anything else for that access point. That's all I have.
Thank you. Did you guys have any questions for Mr. Gritters about his report?
I had a question about the traffic study.
Go for it.
In regards to the traffic study, it said it was done in March of 2025, but we know that coming up, there's, I think, 48 new houses going in at the villages of Silver Lake, maybe half of which are maybe occupied, maybe 30%. There's the new Young Road. There's going to be 23 houses there. There's the bulk park. I was just curious if the traffic report, when they looked at the future projections, took additional traffic that would be generated from those as part of the projections, or would they not do that?
They would have looked at any approved plans of the construction. I'm not a traffic engineer. That's what I believe that they would do.
So you're saying you believe that it was included,
I believe so.
but you don't know?
I do.
Okay.
I think there might be what you're looking for. You looking for like the peak travel and stuff?
I'm sorry?
Were you looking for like the peak travel of the existing
Well, I was
traffic?
just wondering if when it was doing the future projections, when the construction would be complete, if those projections included that additional traffic, because that would be another 70-ish houses that would likely use M44 as a main corridor, as well as bulk park.
I do know they put in a growth factor.
Yes, there is a growth factor, kind of a standardized one, it seemed like.
Whether or not they counted each and every one of those now, I can't honestly answer that.
Okay. It's really surprising to me that the conclusion of the report is that there is an insignificant impact on Belding Road. Because, I mean, I feel like all of us feel that there would be more than an insignificant impact, and there have been a lot of public comment about the traffic and the location being on a curve and on a slope. I guess I would love to understand, and you probably don't know the answer to the question, but like, what's the threshold that would be considered significant? Is it close to that? It was just a very surprising finding to me, based on all the feedback that in our own experience of driving through that area.
On page 8, they talk about how they add the volume of this development to the 2026 anticipated peak volumes. And then they talk about the different graphs. And I would agree, they don't say much, but at least I know they're at least considering what the developer's planning to do, but they don't tell us what they think capacity is, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice to know like what they do consider the threshold for this is a
Yeah.
problem or this is not a problem, but they did at least include it into the 2026 volume projection. Any other questions about the traffic report?
Yeah, quick question. If this 455 feet or whatever it is on the access point, now we could say yay or nay on that, but no matter what we say, does it come back to MDOT? Can they override us? That's what I thought. Yeah. So what we say doesn't matter. It's just what MDOT says on that. Okay. Another question, Jeff.
Yep.
On the somewhere in here, I think it's on the business, it's preliminary site condo approval, and on the actual document in here, it says final or something. So, yeah, approval of final site condominium plan. So we approving the preliminary or the final?
This is preliminary finding and recommendation to the township board. The township board.
Okay, that's okay.
Where do you see that? It's in the title.
Okay.
So the next item on here would be the MDOT email. I understand. Yeah, they're not going to give any ruling on it. Did you guys have any questions about the email? I know that we had asked them to give us all the information that they've got regarding preliminary talks that they've had with them, and this summarized what they had told us before. Did you guys have any questions about this form?
I just had one question. In the mention in the email, there was, it was mentioned there was a retaining wall that should be revisited. Has that been considered?
Yeah, that, excuse me. That was something that we were looking at to make a little grade adjustment, and I think we can do that through other means without using the retaining wall.
Any other questions about the email? The wetland delineation report, it basically sums up kind of what Kevin had said. And basically, yeah, if Eagle needs to do something about or issue any permits, then that's something that we can put as a condition that they need to check with them at least. But this basically sums up everything that Mr. Gritters had said. Do you guys have any questions on it? All right, the Access Management Overlay District. This is what was missing from last time. The 8 conditions. Because of the distance between the two. So thank you for doing it, even though we find out we don't need it now. So it's going to come down to, does anybody have any questions for the developer or the team over here to the right? We've gotten all the information that we've asked for. Any questions for him? No? Let's see here. If nobody has any questions or comments, no. The only things that we would still need are the things that Ed had mentioned in the bottom of his review, which are the very basic things that we require on most things that we review. The master deed information, which I would assume that'll be taken care of. The township attorney will review all those documents. They still have to go before MDOT, get any permits before they can start anything. The same with, if Eagle needs to issue any permits, and they need to meet any of the engineering comments must be addressed, which we reviewed those. Unless you guys have anything else to discuss, whatever, I'll make a motion to approve the.
I'm sorry, there was one more thing.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Todd Olson about the paving trail, and he just wanted to mention that at the point in which it crosses, I believe, Zebulon Court, because it goes up, and then one part goes to the north and the other part goes to the west. He just wanted to make sure that there was going to be adequate signage and painting on the road for the pedestrians.
We'll work with your trails people and do whatever they
Okay.
desire us to do.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Where are you talking about, Rita? On Zebulon Drive?
Zebulon's the main north-south, right? Where it crosses across the road. Like one part of it goes north and then it hits Belding Road, and then another part of it crosses the road.
Blue line?
Yep. Crosses the road and then travels west up through lots 7 and 8. So he just wanted to make sure that there was adequate signage and so that drivers would be aware that that's a pedestrian crossing for the trail.
Yeah, my son, happy to do that. My son Michael, who's a part of this and actually will handle all the developments on the West Michigan Trails board, and so he's pretty adept at all that, and happy to work with that board to sign it, hash mark the road, whatever might be necessary. That's
Okay.
not a problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I'm going to make a motion. Yeah.
Brad Fowler. You do have a resolution,
Okay.
and the resolution would be amended to reflect that it's a recommendation of the preliminary plan by the Planning Commission of the Township Board. And you had this before, so it looks like there's an updated site plan that we would change the date from September to, it looks like October 17th. So you could still just make the motion to adopt
Just reference
the resolution
those.
as amended, but those are the changes we.
What was that date? You said October what for the site plan?
Looks like, from what I could read, 10/17.
I just had one other question
Go for it.
or comment. In Kevin's email, he notes that Eagle could potentially conclude that other wetlands are regulated and that some of the lot layout or numbers of lots could potentially need to be changed and constitute a major change. I just, in the way that the resolution is written, is it clear that if the major change and how the law works, if major changes are made, then that plan would come back to the Planning Commission for approval? Okay, we don't have to like explicitly say that in the resolution. Okay. Okay.
On the actual document that we got, item 10 under street lighting, there's an or in there. Do we want to make a recommendation which way we want to go? It's like page 158 of the package.
Streetlights shall be installed at the expense of the developer or utility. Is that what you're referring to?
You want to have lights?
They said they were going to put lights in, yes.
Be that we make sure that that number 10 on this motion, that we have street lights. And there's an or statement in the document under number
Oh,
10.
I see what you're saying before that.
See,
Street lighting,
it
there
says
shall be no outdoor street lighting
basically
within the
they
development.
can
Or
or can't. I think it should be street lights.
oh, they are.
Okay.
So
So we
Yeah. Yeah.
So we would take out the first line. Anything else? I'm going to make a motion to recommend to the board approval of the preliminary resolution and the site plan dated from October 17th with conditions that we removed from the preliminary resolution out of 10.10, the first sentence stating that there shall not be any streetlights. And also meet the conditions that Ed has in the planner's memo of the bylaws and the master deed must be corrected for final approval, and all MDOT permits must be obtained, and any and all required Eagle permits, if they're required, must be obtained prior to construction and meet all the engineer's comments. We have a motion. Do we have any support? Support. We have a motion. We have support. Do you want to do
we have
roll
to do
call?
public comment first?
What's that?
Public comment on this?
I don't think we do public comment on this, do we? No.
Oh,
So right.
oh, I
Any
just,
questions with the motion?
Were
Okay.
we also updating paragraph 14 with the updated engineer's report? I can't recall if Mr. Leisman mentioned that.
In the engineer's report?
Yeah, I thought the updated report was November 5, maybe.
Yeah, November 5th. Yeah, we can put in the date. So we'll make that for the conditions of the planner's memo that we must meet the comments of the engineer from his report dated November 5th. So we have motion, we have support. Do you want to do roll call, Ed?
Broad,
Yes.
Masterson,
Yes.
Twyman,
Yes.
LaPrant,
Yes.
Proctor.
yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you getting all the info for us.
Pardon me?
I thank you for getting all the info for
No
us.
problem. Thank you. I think it was helpful to have that little bit extra time to make sure there was clarified. So thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, the next item, the zoning ordinance review. I read through it. I guess I'm getting old. I don't remember. I was talking about the definition of farms.
I brought that up.
You did? Okay.
And you know why.
So, I didn't have any questions about it, so go ahead. What's that?
I had some comments on it.
Come on up.
Jim Flanders, at 7975 Hickory Drive. I sent Jessica an email earlier today. Evidently it didn't reach you. It was a little lengthy, but also I'll try to summarize it. Essentially, on Luton Park, there's a barn. and Luton Park was initially a farm. The barn is fairly close to the road and not too far from my house. I live right on the corner, so it's basically one of my neighbors. And so there's been concern because in the master plan for the county, they've indicated that they want to turn it into an event space. So it obviously sparked some interest in the neighborhood. And I was reading the agenda tonight and realized that you're redefining farm and farm structure, right, or building. And as I read it, it appears to me that the change in language, and specifically it notes recreational areas, are not considered farms. So it sort of scrubs away the past history of the farm, brings in this new terminology, and under that definition, it seems like it's paving a path for this event space. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of it, for one, and I'm trying to understand exactly what does this mean and why the changes are being made, and if it will impact our neighborhood like I think it could.
So in this case, that particular barn, if I'm looking at the right one, if that was the rumor and that came to fruition, they would have to come and obviously get a special land use permit to be able to do what you're talking about. But because that is not technically allowed in the RR district, correct? To be able to hold events like that. So they would have to come before the planning commission and request that, and then we would have to have a whole discussion about that. So it changing the definitions, it doesn't give them any right to do anything. It's just basically we're probably having other, I don't know the specific reason, but probably other people saying, hey, I'm allowed to do this because I am a farm. But I think in Canon, it has to be 40 acres, basically whatever the state says, 40 acres for a bona fide farm. So we're probably just defining it more clearly. So that, I mean, you want to give us a little bit of insight on?
Sure. Yeah, it's in their master plan, and I think the part that really caught my eye was the recreational area. So I don't know if there's people asking for variances on recreational areas. Imagine there's only a few of them, right, in the area.
Are they trying to do something maybe in the parking lot area of Luton Park?
No, it's specifically the barn. They noted it in their master plan. So, and so it was more of a cliff note, but still it's there, right? You're making the suggestion. So, of course, we're going to react to it because it's the first we heard of it. And I confirmed it with the individual in our neighborhood that works for the county. So, and this to me just sort of looks like, how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. This looks like, maybe not the first bite, but somewhere along that path. And so the adjustment really caught my eye. So again, I'm not saying don't make the change. I'm just making you aware of it because I could see this leading down a path at some point when we get to that and I say, well, look right here in the ordinances, recreational areas. Yeah, you're good. I understand, setbacks and the variances they would need to get. But again, this is that first step or one of those first steps in that process potentially.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Anybody else? Do you guys have any comments on it?
I had a question, and did you prompt this change in the ordinance?
Yes.
I was just trying to make sense of. I went back and looked at the old definition, and then I don't remember if I was at the meeting on why we were digging deeper into this. But when I read the first 3 lines of it was clear to me in line 1 or 2, or 1 and 2, what we're trying to accomplish in commercial production of farm products. The conjunctive or for marketing of produce, were we intending by this definition to allow like a
Produce stand.
yeah, but we also have a separate farm market, so I just wondered what the intentionality around did we intend that you can have a commercial pumpkin patch or something? If you're not growing it, you can still call yourself a farm if you're selling it. Is that what we intend by? I just raising it. If that's what we intended.
My intention in bringing it up was to clarify the differences between a commercial farm operation and agricultural activities that are more personal or like hobby farming. Because like Edmund mentioned, there we had run into instances where things that were more hobby oriented were trying to use setbacks that were less smaller setbacks in order to build closer to roads, by saying, oh, I'm a farm because I'm doing farm stuff here. So but not commercially. Does that make sense?
Don't we have an ordinance that states you have to meet the state of Michigan's 40-acre minimum to be a bona fide farm?
No, we was never like that's the thing. If you can claim under agricultural charter, you can say that you can say that you can build permits as long as it's used for 100% agricultural purposes. And that's something that's due for anybody to claim that this is agricultural building, we will need permits. We just haven't included that in Michigan code.
I guess to Aileen's point, I would want it to be clear, like pretty clear. Would like hobby or personal farming, it sounds like, would not be included. I guess I go back to the produce stand. Like, do we consider a produce stand to be like a commercial operation, or is that more of like a personal farming hobby, even if you are making money off of it?
I think our ordinance defines farm market, but I don't recall what the definition is.
Because I do feel like you see those are popping up more and more, like people having stands outside the front. And what is the definition of that, and where would it fall?
In the second section for farm building, that last sentence does call that out, right? For farm building shall include roadside stands.
Okay.
Then at least that's what's proposed here.
And it does define farm market as seasonal selling or incorporated for sale at retail of local vegetable or other produce and variety feed as needed where the methods are generally individuals who have raised vegetables or other produce and also including incidental sales and agricultural products.
But it doesn't say it says commercially in that. Did you say commercial?
So how does that work from a definition between, and maybe this is more from the legal side, a hobby and a commercial use? I mean, is that a certain amount of profit? I mean, if you're selling, your 60 pumpkins, obviously that's not enough to sustain a family or anything like that, or a commercial operation, but would still be protected. Like, how is that typically interpreted? But again, where do we do that? Because the farm stand that we just talked about is selling homegrown goods, and a problem. So I just want to make sure that we're not contradicting ourselves here. Is there, from the definition for a hobby farm, like how is that? Is there a standard for what that would be considered?
Non-commercial farm that somebody's doing as a hobby, and they're not doing it to actually make money or for a commercial purpose. What that exactly means at the edges could be gray, and that's the same is true under the Right to Farm Act. Is agricultural purpose for a building permit's different, but under the Right to Farm Act, you have to have commercial production. But there's a case about people selling eggs by the side of the stand, and the court found that was commercial. So I think the idea of what you're doing here, as I understand it, is you're not taking issue with that, but you're saying someone like me who has 5 goats, you're not a farm even though you have animals. That's a hobby, right? Is I think what you're trying to get at.
Well, the conversation that we had was related more to the building aspect of it, like the buildings that support agricultural operations, like delineating between the commercial use of a building for agriculture purposes and a more personal hobby, but it all rolls up into something agricultural. So, for example, with the example of the 5 goats, could that be considered an agricultural operation, and as a result allow a person to build a barn closer to the road than if it was for personal use?
Well, that would be your setback. So, you guys are talking about amending your zoning ordinance. And your setbacks are zoning ordinances. So that would be, yes, what you're trying to do is saying your hobby barn has to be set back the same as an ag build or the same as a accessory building, which is different than a legitimate farm.
Yes,
You
that
might
was
have
the
something
intention.
different for. What I was talking about is as far as your building permit for the building, whether that's an ag purpose or not, that's a different standard, and that's up to the building department. And actually, your zoning ordinance doesn't have any jurisdiction over that part of it. They're 2 separate issues. But that's just for whether you need a building permit for the building, not where it's located.
Yeah, this was
That
more
makes
about
sense.
where it was located specifically, is kind of what prompted us to to look deeper into the definitions and terms in the zoning ordinance.
So if someone has a community garden where they just grow produce, a couple neighbors grow produce together, is that a hobby, or they're not charging each other? Would that be considered a hobby farm, even though it's?
That would be so. Changing this is spurred by the planning commission, so that would be also.
Well, that's what I think that they're trying to figure out. We're trying to define the hobby farm versus the commercial, it sounds like.
Yeah, you could take it a step further and define hobby farm.
So if you wanted that, just quick question about that, and we could send it back and what's how the farm is fully defined, and then that's
Well, then on top of that, I had specifically called out the terminology of agricultural operations. I have written down the definition of farm versus agricultural operations and commercial farming. Because again, if you just say agricultural operations, that doesn't necessarily indicate whether that's operations for personal use or for commercial use. And then, and again, why this came up was, and then how that would impact if somebody was using a particular building for personal or commercial use, and what setback rules would apply to that building based on if it was personal farming or commercial farming. And I don't know the answer to whether it's to that. I just know that we struggled a little bit with trying to interpret that in the best way.
So what would you like to see added to this? Because I think you guys are
Clarity.
we need clarity on the definition of hobby farm, commercial farm.
I'm not sure. I mean, my question was kind of esoteric. I was just contemplating what would we do in this situation, and I'm not sure that it bears further, pinpointing a definition. I just like posing a question.
Well, say we did run into a situation where this was a point of conversation at a somewhat recent ZBA, where we were.
Did you have a barn? No, you guys trying to do stables or something like that?
Yep. And that was the situation there. That trying to support or understand where we were from Ed's perspective as the administrator, to be able to interpret that more concretely, I think, or have that understanding, even though I think there were some assumptions of, yes, this doesn't feel like a commercial farming operation, but does our ordinance support that?
And to clarify, it doesn't address any commercial, it's also using commercial. Active commercial operations, it still states that no buildings or structures shall be located with any required yard, and any building greater than 1,200 square feet in area shall be located at least 50 feet from any rear or side lot line. So it does, our ordinance does dictate where it can be. So they can't just come and say, well, I want to build it right on the lot line and go from there.
But the normal the normal setback that we were talking about was 200 feet. And then if we would have deemed that particular building to be a farm building, then the setback would have been 50 feet. And that ended up being kind of the point of contention is this particular barn for a farming activity or an agricultural operation.
It was deciding, is it an accessory use to the primary residence, or is it the standalone structure, just is that the use?
So my goal was just that there was more clarity around the differences between these different terms that were kind of used a little interchangeably and not clear on the personal versus commercial, so that if another instance of this came up in the future, it would be easy to say, okay, if the barn is being used for this, it's personal, it falls under this portion of the zoning ordinance, or if it's commercial, then it falls under this part of the zoning ordinance. And maybe it's just taking out the word agricultural operations out and not even have it included, and try to keep all of the terminology tighter and just using farm and farm building and maybe commercial operations, and leave out some of the terms that create the gray areas.
Is it, my understanding is correctly, it's almost turning into how do we determine if it's going to be used for accessory use or if it's going to be, I mean, is that an issue that you're fighting with accessory buildings? The definition of them? That we should look into that versus...
So an accessory structure is an accessory to the primary use of the property. So if it's residential property, the accessory structure is accessory to that. I don't have that. I have problems.
Okay. I mean, what...
Sheds and barns and property. So we also have 5 acres. But a definition of accessory structure, I would think
So do we need, so we should move forward with this, or should we leave things the way they are? Is this something that you guys want to add to, leave the way that it is? And
I think the prescriptive descriptions are really helpful. So I don't think there's a lot of opportunity for vagueness in it. Hopefully it'll make it easier for the ZBA. But if there needs to be more.
I think it's well written.
the only thing that I would like to recommend if you want it is that when people that come up to planning commission ZBA, that doesn't come up in the future.
I would like to understand what other communities or how that's generally described, because in my mind, if you have a stand out front and they're trying to sell something for $1, all of a sudden that's similar to the selling eggs at the side of the road, although it's not something you're supporting a family on. Does that become a commercial operation?
And with the advent of community gardens, I mean, it just seems like there would be potential for something like that. Less so a structural issue as much as it is how the property is being used.
So is this something that you guys would like to have the definition of a hobby farm included in this ordinance amendment? Ben?
I mean, even if it was, the hobby was removed and it was somehow restated, as part of that to say, crops not grown for, or things not used for, with the intent to profit or something like that. If that does it, and then the only other question that I had on there is I do stables. It says kennel stables, right? Academy. So would we not refer to a stable? Because first thing that comes to mind, I think of a stable. If I have a legitimate horse farm where I'm breeding horses, I would consider that a stable, not a barn.
Not a farm?
But if we're considering that a stable just meaning, the place where you're keeping your
Livestock.
thoroughbred horses that, for hobby or whatever the case is, that's a different use case in my mind. So I don't know if that creates challenges.
Our ordinance doesn't have stables, commercial stables. So I don't see an issue with that being a major use only. There's no conflict. Somebody can say, commercial stables are not stables. We can separate.
Because that, even though it says it does not include use of keeping animals or growing crops for personal use, stockyards, blah blah, and then it goes on to say stables. So
Should it say private stables?
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say maybe it should say private stables there because they're in the definitions in chapter 2. There's a definition for commercial stable and private stable. So it seems like the secondary what you're describing is a private stable.
So yeah, so even if we had private put in front of that,
Yeah.
I'd be completely. I think that's a great solution there.
Anything else?
That was also been so it's been just I need all of these to the board, kind of keep us on open
Have them revise it.
and revise it 2 weeks.
So we would do the public posting for the chunk of them at a time.
So if you could revise with the few notes that we have and then bring back to us and we'll save it for when we have multiple to present it to the public. Is that sufficient? All right. Individuals every time. Any new business? Anything for next month? Okay. Anybody have any comments? Jess is our liaison. I don't know if anything happened on the board recently, but if there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.